back to the nerdy neighborhood, and welcome back to your friendly neighborhood comic show. I'm your host, Lauren, your friendly neighborhood bi, and today we've got another indie comic creator here joining us. This is Mr. Mel. How are you, Mel?
Good night. Thank you so much for having me over. I am great. I'm very excited to talk about the plot.
Yeah, I am too. Well, I love that you already hit on the head. So it's called The Plot, and it's, as I've read it, it's very much like a mystery kind of thriller thing. And it really reminded me of a series from Image called The Department of Truth. Are you familiar with that series?
The Department of Truth? No, I never heard of it. Well, who produced it? You said Image?
Yeah, Image. Yeah, it's published by Image.
What else are they known for producing? Image? What comes to mind with Image is like a straight-to-video crappy action.
Well,
what else would I know them for?
Yeah, Image has been doing a lot lately. There's a lot. They've been going more towards like the darker stuff lately. So the darker, the horror stuff. That's kind of what I think of with Image comic books now.
Oh, Image the comics. Okay, I was thinking Image like a production company.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another comic series. James Tynion, was it the fourth? I think the number is on his name. He writes it, and it's a really cool series that really deals with kind of like it seems like the plot does, conspiracy theories and things like that.
Okay, I'm looking it up. Actually, I looked it up now, and I like the cover. I like how it looks like a photo of JFK, like a spray, like a graffiti of JFK, and
yeah.
I love stuff like that. I love thrillers. I like anything that's suspense, anything that, and I love conspiracy. Like I find that subject fascinating. You know, I don't particularly believe in them, but like the fact that they exist. And that they sort of don't go away, you know, like trends go, fashions go away, but this stuff just will not go away ever. It just stays, it's always around, it always comes back around, it comes back around. And I find that fascinating. Both the fact that they exist, you know, that how far flung they are, how complex, and just the fact that, you know, like what does that say about people, about me as a whole, I guess, the fact that I'm so fascinated with this, but about people who are like who take this seriously, who like, this is like a big deal to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there are people that like, yeah, they live and breathe it night and day. It's conspiracy after. There are some people that, you know, delve more into like very specific types of conspiracy theories, but there are people that just, they eat up every possible theory. It's like their fuel is another conspiracy theory a day.
Exactly, yeah, and it's I don't know if you have friends like that, but it makes it awkward to like hang out with them because there's just no fun time like talking comics, talking movies. It's just someone's always plotting to get you. So I kind of took that idea and I put that in here. I put the idea of like let me see okay, so I incorporated, I don't know if you noticed that, but Men in Black. I took Men in Black. Not the movie, you know, not the movie. It's a fun movie, but Men in Black, as originally conceived, are kind of terrifying. They're kind of scary.
Yeah.
So I took that. I incorporated the whole idea of the sleeper agent, which I think it's been debunked since, you know, the whole notion that this is like a deep covert that was planted in a country. You know, they live a normal life for years and years, and then eventually, at some point, they get a phone call, and someone says like one word, and that word like engages, like they're like in on mode now. I love that stuff, and I guess it's been debunked, but I still find that fascinating. So I kind of incorporated that into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the cover alone here, with you got the creepy guys. I love how you drew them here because even though they are, I think, question mark. The thing is, I don't think this is ever really answered. They're supposed to be human, or we're supposed to think they're human, but they've got these like creepy, like alien-like qualities. You can tell by like their jaw structure you did there and stuff.
Well, so yeah, so those are the Men in Black, but I was like, okay, let's say they do work. You know, based on what I hear about how Men in Black function, I was like, well, I'll just kind of incorporate that. But then I'll say, how would I want to say this without being spoilery for anybody who may want to go download it. Okay, so, well, let's just say he is there. He is being interrogated by them because of something that happened. And the further we get into this, it turns out what happened doesn't have anything to do with them, but they figure, well, we got this guy, let's just go with him anyways. Let's just prime and condition him for the thing that we need him to do.
Yeah, that's why, so my favorite thing about this is that it looks simple quote, right? Maybe to average audiences, they're used to like big CGI films and all this crazy color and action effects. But you really take this down to the basics, and I think it really suits exactly what it seems like you were trying to do, which is, again, you just want to focus on these creepy dudes and how they're interrogating this guy who got caught up in something seemingly not great, right? And they're trying to figure out what happened. And, you know, you kind of, as I was reading this, you know, I really love how it takes you through each step of the questioning too. So like, if people really love like crime shows and the questioning and the interrogation scenes, this is like that, but on steroids in terms of the interrogation. It's every single question. It's not just like 2 minutes of this and then move on, you know?
Yeah, well, the shows, I guess they have a time limit. I didn't particularly have that here. I was trying to strike that balance of like, okay, I want to like unnerve you and make you scared, but at the same time, I don't want to bore you, because everything, you know, like that happens. Like, there's like a thin line in writing and writing and filmmaking where like, you deliver just the right amount of suspense to keep you going, but then if you go too far, you're like numb someone. Now you're like, I'm bored, I'm gonna start tuning out. So hopefully, I guess based on your reaction, it looks like I struck the right balance. So thank you for that. But a little note about that, about what happens with the interrogation is like that is based on, if you've ever been like interrogated by cops, anything like that, you know how like no matter you answer something, and no matter how harmless or innocent it seems, they kind of turn it into something sinister. They just like keep going on that and keep going on that, and they all of a sudden it's like it sounds suspicious. It could be like the stupidest thing ever, but they'll just keep on that and keep on that, and then they suddenly change tactics and go on to something else, and then gradually go back around to the thing that you mentioned, I don't know, like 5 minutes ago. So it comes from that. It comes from, you know, how actually, you know, when a cop stops you for whatever reason because you look like someone they're looking for or whatever. It's like that. The kind of interrogation that goes on, it's like that. It just goes on forever, and it just goes on detours, and it goes back around to something pointless that you said that you forgot about. Like, it just goes on like that. So it's from that. It comes from that.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree, and I saw that in every single page, you know, particularly the majority of it is a lot of the interrogation, but you did such a good job capturing exactly what you said, right? They'll persist on some questions that you're like, why are you persisting on this? Like, it seems irrelevant, it's dumb, you know, what you need to know more about this, and then they'll also not persist on things you're like, shouldn't you? Don't you want to know more about that?
Yeah,
because they have their own little mind games. And then it's also cool to see the main character in this, Raymond Corman, you know, when they question him, he sometimes will only answer the questions being asked. He'll be very direct and that's it, and they'll pry him, but often, especially as the question goes further, he starts giving more than he should, meaning they'll ask him for one simple thing and he says even more than that.
Yeah, well, early on, like actually, let me see. I'm looking at what you posted. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, I think in the next page, just when he says the MID leading the interrogation, he says through simple repetition, you find out that you know a lot more than you think you do, which I can agree with that. Like you know, our brains pick up a lot more information than we receive consciously. So I was kind of playing on that idea, and also I thought, okay, so this will be a good way to start releasing information slowly. You know, like the writer's dilemma of, you know, give an exposition, but not doing info dump, doing the info dump, because again, that's when you can lose people. That's when you lose the reader, because you're just like, okay, there's too much information, like nothing's happening. Like, you strike that balance. So that came from that. Like, okay, so if I have him ask a question again, maybe the next time he'll say a little more.
Yeah.
And then they kind of go on a tangent, but that tangent also reveals a little more, and gradually he does start remembering more things also as well. And it's also like you know, that's the creative side of it. From the reader side of it, it's you are reading and you're picking up a little bit more each time. So again, hopefully that keeps you interested, that keeps you hooked, but in a way that feels organic, in a way that's earned.
Right. Yeah. No, you did a great job with that. Again, because when I started this, I was like, this is really simple. Okay, like just by stylistically and such. But when I, you know, kept reading it, I couldn't stop reading it. It's also really nice because you do these great big pages. You know, they're basically panels that you make a page. And so it's a very quick read in terms of like, you know, like those old flip books where you could flip it really fast and you'd see the pages move. It feels kind of like that in terms of reading it. So the pacing is great because I just keep going. I'm like, oh my God, where's this question going? Oh my God, where's this going? And then in the end, there's a lot more action that kicks in because some of the, the webs you've kind of tangled start unraveling a little bit, and they start unraveling very quickly. And so it's a lot of fun as a reader because there's a lot of like it feels like you set it up very well in terms of here's the introducing the things, here's the questioning, oh, here's some more stuff happening, here's something new, and then bam, everything at the end. It was just so fun to read because it really made me feel like I was like a part of trying to solve whatever was happening. I couldn't tell at first if I was on the guy that's getting questioned side or if I was on their side. Like, I was like, who am I supposed to be rooting for? I don't know, but I have to find out who it is.
No, thank you so much, man. That is just a great compliment. That is like, I was aiming for that. I want to keep you in, but in a way that is honest, in a way that's not manipulative, like how some writers and some filmmakers use, like, CGI, like you pointed out, CGI or something. Yeah. Something that's artificial to keep you interested as opposed to keeping you engaged in what's happening in the characters in the situation. I come from that place of it, and I guess the fact that I grew up before the current era of filmmaking where like it seems like everything is a Marvel movie. Yeah. Every other thing. I mean, and I'm okay with those. It's not a bad thing. It's just I'm not really into superheroes to begin with. I love comics, the medium of comics. I'm not particularly into superhero comics. Mm-hmm. And one great thing about where we are now is that there is a lot of that now. There is a lot of variety. That you're not stuck with just Marvel and DC. You have other things. You have variety. You have more stuff. So that encouraged me to try something that I'm really into. Like I said, I love spy thrillers. I love noir, like old school noir, which usually, and particularly the hard-boiled private eye noir, which is a quest, that the private eye is looking for someone or something. But it's like a MacGuffin. The search is usually more about showing something about the world that he lives in. So I love that stuff, and that's what I was aiming for here. That simplicity of the Maltese Falcon, Humphrey Bogart and the Maltese Falcon, or oh man, I'm drawing a blank now. Well, more recently, the first Jack Reacher movie. I really love that movie. Mm-hmm. Love that movie because even though it's a fairly recent movie, it's a 21st century movie, the tone and the character, Jack Reacher, feels like a throwback. He feels like a character from the 40s, and he has that attitude that he's not a very nice guy, but he cares about truth. He cares about getting to the bottom of things. Mm-hmm. And just the way the story was structured, love that whole thing. Like, we were kind of like discovering things along with Jack Reacher. Yeah. So at first it seems like things are going one way, then the narrative goes into this direction, then it goes back another way, and like, man, I love that. I love that, in movies or any media in general, like comics or it's fiction, just leaves you uneasy. It doesn't make things easy for you.
Right. Yeah.
But I might be a minority in that regard. Like, I think people like predictable, simple things, and I think you and I happen to be in a minority where we like to be shaken up and we like to be made uncomfortable. So
I think it depends. I mean, there's a lot of comfort and predictability, right? But then there's also movies like, Gone Girl that was very popular for a while. And that movie, like, if anybody hasn't watched that, you should, because it will break your brain a little bit, no matter who you are. Like, even if you're somebody that watches thrillers all the time or horror films, that one will definitely get you. So I think people like some unpredictability because it's different and we do get bored. But I think you're right in the general mindset of there are people that like the unpredictability more than the others. They're like, I just want sometimes, not all the time. Just, I want my comfort zone and I want to step out like once a year.
Totally. No, I'm in the same place. Like sometimes, like I said, I was talking about like the crappy action movies, like this company in the 90s called PM Entertainment. They made these like 90 minutes movies, like, and they were very predictable. They were cheesy, but they're fun. Like you said, it's the kind of thing you just sit down, relax, and just take it in. But then there are times when you want something challenging, something that kind of not only gives you things in a way that you're not used to. It kind of changes the structure. It kind of changes, like it does things a little bit differently. The way it delivers information and the thrills and the scares. But also maybe makes you question your morality or values, where you stand as a person on issues and things like that. So I like things like that. Something that once in a while just makes you sit up and take notice of, what you value and what you appreciate and what you will not stand for, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think you captured that super well, especially by the ending here. That last page took me. I was like, well, damn it, this was so good. What the hell? Where's more?
The ending, I guess, I wanted to make it like I guess I reference some movies. I'm gonna keep referencing movies. In the 70s, there's a great conspiracy theory movie called The Parallax View. Have you ever seen it? Oh my God, you might like that. It stars Warren Beatty, and it has to do with a lot of the things that I'm discussing here. But what I love about, well, I love everything about the movie, but I love the ending in that it feels like I don't want to say what happens. I'm not going to spoil it, but it feels like the ending is like a very matter of fact thing. Like it's business as usual. Like something has happened.
Yeah.
You know, awful things have happened, but they're being mentioned in this matter of fact way. Like it's just okay. Now it's just a news bite. So I kind of wanted to get with that idea. Like this intense thing happened. People saw it as a different thing. You know, when we get to that scene in the rooftop, what happened and all that, and then at the end, it's just something in the news. It's just like almost like something they mentioned before going on to the weather or showing like a dog doing something cute with like a in the snow, you know.
Yeah, no, I love that concept. I think it was brilliantly done. Because I think things like that, especially when something like heinous or horrendous happens, all this crazy stuff, and then at the end of whatever that is, a film, a story, whatever, it's just, like you said, business as usual. And it's a haunting way of reality, right? Because that's what happens. Like, when horrible things happen in real life, like, I mean, something as horrible as 9/11 is in this country, right? You know, that horrific thing happened, and nowadays, business as usual. Same with COVID. Business is back to as usual in a lot of places. So,
and I guess for our situation, you know, where we are in culture now with like the shootings, like and very recently there was that shooting in Colorado also, and again, it's like they have to mention the shooting, you know, and how they stand with the community, the LGBTQ community, but it's like, okay, somewhere in here we gotta mention the weather also, which, you know, like
right.
Somewhere in there we gotta work out the weather and maybe even a stack report thing, like having the little scrolling bottom of the what is the latest thing at the end, New York Stock Exchange. So I was thinking of that, you know, like something happens, at first it's this shock, then it gradually becomes just this thing, just another thing to cap off the evening news.
Yeah,
so
that's how it goes. It's
and not seeing a way to change that, you know. Exactly, yeah, like not seeing a way to change them, not seeing a way to just, you know, how do you make this more relevant, you know, because this is a problem, like it has this numbing effect, you know, these things happen, and the news intended to seem sympathetic and all that, I think they make it actually more irrelevant, like more like just another thing to just gloss over quickly before we go on to something that'll make you happy again, you know. It won't change your life for the better, but it'll give you something to feel glow about, to feel a little happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that token, I'm interested to hear, since you're such a big fan of like thrillers and conspiracy theories, what's a conspiracy theory? Is there any conspiracy theory that you actually like? Like, whether it's true or not, you are like, that's a very entertaining conspiracy theory.
Well, entertaining. I found one called Birds Aren't Real. And what makes this funny is that it's very deliberately a thing that was done on purpose. Like it's like a young guy, a guy who's in promotions. He came up with this whole idea about how in the 70s, all birds were like killed, and all the birds that you see are like robots. And when they touch on power lines, they're recharging.
Yeah, they're like government birds now.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, but it's very deliberately done so. And I think it's actually poking fun at conspiracy theories, but it's so clever. Like, I think it's such a clever thing. Like, I find that funny. And I think it's worked out in the sense that he's sold a lot of merch. If you ever want to Google it, check out Birds Aren't Real. It's hilarious. Now, serious conspiracy theories. It's hard to pick one. Like, the JFK one, that's a really powerful one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it actually led to, you know, the assassination of a president, and in some ways the ramifications of that are still with us to this day. It's like a giant stone in a pond. The ripples keep going and going, and the ripples are, you know, with us into the present, into our present now from that. One that I find very fascinating, it's not really a conspiracy theory, but it's more like clever marketing, is the wedding ring.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Yeah. I'm going to recommend, if you ever have a time, there's a documentary called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick, or Everything is a Rich Man's Illusion. I'm not sure which one of the two, but in that documentary, they before they go into the larger conspiracy, which is about the Holocaust and how many American industrialists became wealthy because of the Holocaust, because they invested in businesses like Ford, Rockefeller. A lot of people invested in the machinery that went into what was used to, kill 6 million people in the Holocaust. The preface to that, they preface that by telling the story of how in the early 1920s, there was really no such thing as using, like people doing the wedding ring thing. But the Beers, the diamond maker, to sort of sell diamonds, they created that marketing campaign of the wedding ring, like a diamond is forever, like show your love with a diamond. And that became a thing that, to this day, that's a really big issue. Maybe people who like buy really expensive rings to impress, the people who are going to attend the wedding and all that. So that, I find that very fascinating, but it's not really a theory, it's more marketing, just really clever marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
so,
I think a lot of things like that, especially with business, like you said, marketing, all that stuff, there's things that I guess people could call conspiracy theories, but kind of like you're saying, a lot of those things, they're facts, but they're kind of clever and undercover. So general audiences, general people don't pay attention to it because they just grew into whatever that business or marketing model was. So if you are like 12 today, then by the time you're old enough to get married and choose to, if you do, you're already invested in this country at least, the wedding ring and diamonds, unless you practice a different culture here, which is wonderful. So.
Yeah, so I probably haven't answered your question, but it's just I cannot really pinpoint one. Like I find the what is the word, the Gestalt as a whole, I find it fascinating. Like I find all of them fascinating too, because there's also like these crossovers where like one conspiracy might tie into another conspiracy, and from those you get like a whole new conspiracy. Like I'm trying to pinpoint one now more recently. I guess they say that in LA used to have a really good public transportation system, and they said that a number of companies conspired to get rid of it, to like eliminate it, and to leave it, LA trapped in, dependent on the car. I don't know if that's true or not, but I find that fascinating too, because it may be simply a business decision, but it feels like conspiracy theory sort of adopted that one and collected and maybe made it their own. And it could have been simply that it's just at some point the rail system became unsustainable.
Yeah, I think I would very much recommend reading Department of Truth. I think you'll really like that series because just the first arc alone, the first like 6 issues or so, they're exploring like how a conspiracy happens, like what makes a conspiracy, and what makes truth even. If somebody thinks, if you have somebody that thinks the Earth is flat, right? And it's like, can you actually travel somewhere? And if somebody believes it enough, will they see that there's an end? Like, will they see that you can jump off the Earth even though it's not technically there? It's wild. I think that'd be a great inspiration. I think you just enjoy it as another fan because it's a lot of fun. It might break your brain a bit.
Like a comic book. That's gotta be like a multi-volume thing, because there's so many. Unless he picks like the bigger ones like JFK, Flat Earth Theory, Reptilian Shapeshift. That's another one of my favorite reptilians. Reptilians are like ruling the world secretly, and that they are among us. Like some people are reptilians. Like have you ever heard of David Icke?
I don't think so.
He is another big conspiracy theorist, and he says that Obama is a reptilian. Obama and Jimmy Carter are reptilians.
I love that because it makes so little sense, but I don't think that doesn't do anything for me, that theory, because there's no evidence. Well, so the plot is your first comic book, is that correct?
It's my first a book-length graphic novel. Yeah, I made some short pieces, like little like 10-page short, like a 12-page short kind of thing. But I kept like hesitating. I kept like kind of putting this off because it was like a bit of an intimidating task. Now in 2019, I decided to just get a table, go to a Comic-Con, get a table, because to me that's like the dream. In the years before that, I'd go as an attendee. And whenever I saw like people working the table, like signing autographs, I'm like, That's like the rock star. Like, I want to do that. I want to be that person. So in 2019, I decided to do that. I photocopied the short pieces. I got a table at Boston Comic Con. That's the big city near me. And I go there, and it was disappointing. I sold nothing. Like, it was really crushing, disappointing weekend. Like, it was.
Yeah.
But after I got over that, and I thought of what happened, I realized that I wasn't committed. I wasn't, to quote Seth Godin, the marketer, I wasn't putting myself on the hook. I hadn't told anybody that I was going to be there. I hadn't advertised on social media.
Right.
And I realized the reason is because I was afraid to put myself out there. And I'm like, well, I have to change that. I have to, be fully committed to this. Like, whether people like it, whether people don't, I have to do it. So I said, okay, so next year is going to be different. I'm going to start learning marketing. I'm going to start learning how people promote themselves on social media and all that. So what happens as 2020 begins, and you more or less know what happens in the first third of 2020. Like, COVID happens, and I'm like, okay, so this is an opportunity. I'm the place I work closed. I was out of work for 3 months, and like, I had the employment insurance plus what they gave and all that. I'm like, this is an opportunity. I have all this time. Let me dive in. Let me grab these pages that I had drawn previously, and just do something with them. And I start going through them because the artwork has no dialogue. It's just artwork, action, but no dialogue. And I don't even remember the motivation why I did that. I think I had read an article by Steranko on visual storytelling. And I don't know if you're a fan of Steranko. He is he's a comic book artist, an illustrator and book designer, graphic artist and all that. But he's a very flamboyant guy. Like, he has this. He was a magician, actually. Very early on in his career, he was a magician. He's like in his 80s now, and he brought that flair of magicianship into making comics. He's better known in the 60s. He had a short run of Nick Fury, and it's a very sophisticated thing. He incorporated like a surrealism of Dali, like the melting clocks and all that stuff. He brought that into a comic starring Nick Fury. He brought also some James Bond sophistication and like even a little bit of sex, like tastefully shown, not in a very graphic way. But he incorporated these things that were like very hip and modern in the 60s into this comic book with Nick Fury. And it's almost all he's ever done in comics, but the influence has been palpable. To this day, a lot of artists quote Steranko as an influence. And then he goes by one name, Steranko, so that adds to that influence as well, that kind of glamour. So he wrote an article on visual storytelling, effective storytelling. And he included like a 6-page drawing he made about Nick Fury that is wordless. There's no dialogue on it. And this was in turn inspired by a French film called Rififi from the 1950s, where there's a high sequence, but the high sequence is done without sound, like literally no sound. It's all like just the criminals going through the highs. So he was influenced in turn by this, and he created this sequence in the Nick Fury comic book. And this in turn has influenced many other people as well. To this day, there's still people who like any kind of sequence is done like with a dialogue. So I think maybe that's what happened. I created something. I drew this, but I think the idea was, okay, I'm going to draw this and I'm going to show it to people. And I'm going to can you follow this without dialogue? Can you see can you get a sense of what's going on? Can you get a sense of a narrative without dialogue, with helping you? Like, does it work visually first? I guess I was thinking of that. And then pandemic happens and I come back to that. And in that time, I guess I read up more conspiracy theory stuff. And I was like, okay, so let me integrate this, some of my favorite conspiracy theories with the stuff that I love best about thrillers, namely that little drip by drip release of info. And I think the third maybe ingredient was also this album by a band called Queensryche. In the late 80s, they released this album called Operation Mindcrime. And the album is a story. I love that. It's a concept. They call that a concept album. So the album is about this person who's like an addict, who's kind of like a drifter, loser type, who gets manipulated by this guy named Dr. X, who gives him drugs and sends him to do assassinations. And at first he's okay with that. Then he kind of falls in love. then he wants out of that situation, but he realizes this is a really vast thing that he cannot just simply walk away from. And I love that. I love the fact that they told a story through music. And again, it deals with conspiracy theories. It deals with mind control, with control systems as a whole, like control systems. So I was, that element came along with these other conspiracy theory elements, and that combined with the visual storytelling element. And that's where the plot started. I would take pages and I would take like a little post-it, take it over the artwork and write something. Oh, wow. And then I would take another page, put more post-it, and then gradually the dialogue started coming from. That dialogue, it's an interesting thing, and that dialogue came last. It was the very last thing that came along.
Okay. That is interesting, because I feel like, doing thrillers or like conspiracy theory stories especially, they're hard without dialogue because, conspiracy theories, there's so much explanation. So it was very clever because you do like the use of flashbacks between the questioning and the interrogation. And that was very clever to visually show what you're trying to tell.
Yes, yeah, that's a big thing for me, like both in terms of consuming media and creating media, like simplicity. Like some people can do that really well. There are writers that can do that really well, but most people cannot. And when you end up doing this, you end up confusing people and frustrating them. And when I'm doing that, I'm thinking of the point of view of the reader, like I'm not in a manipulative way, but in the sense like I bought the comic book and I'm gonna sit down to read the comic book, and I feel that you're kind of leading me on, or like I feel like you're confusing me on purpose because you couldn't figure out how to deliver the information in a way that fulfills the need for entertainment, but also gives you the thrill, like that balance. So I was thinking of that. I was like, okay, I make that promise to myself and to the reader, like I'm not going to deceive you. I'm not going to do that. If I cannot do it, then I'll quit and I'll start over with something else later on then. But that's a big deal to me. Clarity is a big deal to me. Like I want you to understand, but hopefully I'm also kind of misdirecting you a little bit, kind of playing with you a little bit, playing with your emotions, playing with your sense of anticipation. But at the same time, like I will not confuse you on purpose. I will not do that.
Well, and honestly, that's the thing with thrillers and conspiracy theory stories and things like that is it is going to be misleading at times, and it's not to be a butt or to be a mean writer or whatever that means, right? You're telling your story and you have a purpose for it. So at the end, everything's going. It sounds like what you're saying is that even if you do misdirect at times and things like that, at the end, everything does make sense. It does connect, and I can say that as somebody who has read this and very much enjoyed it. It does connect, which is very satisfying. But like you also said earlier, that ending of just like things are back to normal even after all this chaos. It's unsettling, but in a good way. I think at least that's what it sounds like your intent was, is to make us kind of sit there and go like, oh my gosh, all that happened, but now here's your Channel 9 news.
Yes, yeah, there's that aspect of that, and also. Personally for me, my preference when it comes to horror, let's say, I'm not a big horror fan, but I tend to prefer horror that is more the slow burn, the misdirection, the suspense, the build-up versus the gore. Like I don't mind gore, but we talked earlier about watching something that's reassuring and comforting. Well, that's what gore is. That's like the kind of thing you watch when you just want to sit down and maybe laugh at the cheesy effects or anything like that. But if I'm in the mood for something more serious, then I'll watch something like from recent movies, let's say, wreck you or manipulate you in a way, like it came from the situation. Roman Polanski is another filmmaker that I like a lot for that. He really unsettles you in a way that it's not so much based on gore, but it's based on a situation and just kind of cranking up the tension. So I tend to prefer that. I tend to prefer slow burn to like gore and violence. I'm not against that. It doesn't hit me the same way.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the quiet, unsettling thing over the the hammer over the head. I prefer the small, subtle thing because that stays with you afterwards. Like you finish watching the movie and you'll be thinking about it for days afterwards, and you don't even know why, but you cannot stop thinking about it. So I prefer that. I prefer that kind of approach versus the Blumhouse effect. Let's say the Blumhouse movies. They're fun movies. They're okay. But they're intended to give you that thrill, and when the movie's over, that's it. Like that's all. That we're done here. The show's over.
Yeah, that is.
Versus movies that just stay with you, like they haunt you and they unsettle you maybe, but like for a while afterwards, and to the point that you have to kind of sit down and what is it about this that has to be so unsettled? I prefer that. I love that stuff.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like the psychological like thrillers and stuff far more than like the, you know, make your heart jump out of your chest like 5 times during the film, and you know, you'll remember the heart jumping out of the chest a little bit, but you won't actually care about the film afterwards. So, yeah, I'm all
that
for
starts to annoy me after a while, like when they, you know, like the jump scare thing, like after a while the jump scare starts getting like, they also telegraph it too, because they usually like turn down the sound, it gets quiet, so to the point that you almost, oh, here comes a jump scare, you know, like.
Right. Yeah, they do it with the intent of scaring you more, but if you watch them enough where you just know, then you're like, yep, it's coming. You learn not to trust the quiet. The quiet is the most telling element of horror movies after a while.
Versus someone like, say, Robert Eggers, who uses quiet a lot, like in the Witch, or the Witch, I guess you could say. Yeah. There was a lot of sound in that movie, a lot of the sound of the wind. And breaking convention too, like the fact that he shows you the witch, like the first 10 minutes of the movie, you see the witch right there. And then from there, you think you can't only go downhill, but no, he actually goes in a completely different direction that leaves you like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is really good. Same with The Lighthouse. That was so bonkers, so crazy, but like, I love that also. Yeah. I haven't seen his latest movie. I don't know. Have you seen that? The Northman, I think it's called.
No, I have not.
I haven't. That's not horror, so I guess I'm going off topic. Or off suspense, not suspense.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the plot isn't really horror, but I think that's what's so interesting, too, is that, you know, genres like horror and thriller and even, like, just suspense, they kind of flip-flop. They go together, and I feel like there are stories that have been told, right, in any media, whether it's comics or movies or otherwise, that kind of blend the genres together, so... I think that's what
they kind of blur. The lines blur between suspense.
Yeah.
I couldn't even define it, except for myself. I think I define it in terms of what's the action within the movie or the comic. Let's say a heist, you know, like a heist, maybe a private investigation, you know, a private investigator, something like that. That will be where I draw the line. For the definition versus horror, where it could be the supernatural, it could be a haunted house, it could be any of those things. I guess it's the hard line action. Whatever they're doing is where I guess I say it's suspense or it's horror.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it'd be fun to like do like a Venn diagram or a chart or something of like comparing them all and seeing where they overlap, how often they do. That could be a lot of fun.
I would guess that the YouTuber probably has done that. And I have never tried to look, but now you got me into that. I think I'll look that up. I'll find it, because I think some YouTubers have done that. Like, there's one channel that I watch sometimes called oh man, I'm drawing a blank. I'm not promoting on your platform. It's just that I can't remember the name of the channel.
You're fine.
But he is dedicated to horror. No, it's just I cannot remember it. I think it's in honor of darkness. I think in honor of darkness. But
okay.
He is a big horror guy, and he's done little videos like that where he draws comparisons between the two, and I like what he does. So he probably, what you said, he created a Venn diagram where he separates the two. But I guess I'm simpler. Like my things are simple. Like I said, I love noir. I love crime thrillers. I love heist movies. So I kind of tend to go with that. And I also like science fiction. I like science fiction that is not so much predicting the future, but sort of exploring the present a little bit. So in here, I use the sleeper agent as the hook. That's the sci-fi hook. This idea of.
Oh, I was gonna say that was the hook that got me. So I think that's where like I felt the alien influence, even though there's no like actual signs they're aliens or something. But I was like, oh, I kind of feel this vibe. But like you said, there's no like direct like big crazy colors or spaceships or you know, a lot of the hysterical sci-fi stuff. You just kind of you mix it in very nicely with the noir and things like that.
Yeah, that's if I were to define my favorite genre, it's mixing the crime thriller, you know, the mixing suspense with sci-fi. If you can find some kind of what sci-fi does is it gives you a flexibility to be preposterous, to be crazy in a way that you can now, when you're dealing with like hard realism, you know, like a crime thriller by itself can become like a social drama about how I was forced into a life of crime kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it becomes something like that where people need to have their moment where they explain their motivations for what it is, or it becomes like a police drama about corrupt. It kind of tends to go into that direction. Whereas if you have some kind of sci-fi element, it keeps it sort of accessible to everybody. It makes it accessible to anyone. It's not this thing that starts to alienate someone else because now you're dealing too much into police corruption, or you're dealing too much into like criminals, into the criminal, which can be off-putting to some people. You can use an average person too. You can use any one person. Like in this case, Corman. You know, Corman is just a very average guy. There's nothing particularly outstanding about him. So on the one hand, let's say, so you take the average. You have, you know, the average person, the mundane thing that kind of grounds it. You take some sci-fi element that can be preposterous and crazy, and then you bring in the suspense angle that can come from noir or PI fiction or espionage fiction. I love espionage also, like spy thrillers and things like that. I love that stuff because of the personality aspect in that, like the kind of mindset that it takes to do that work, where it's almost like, I compare it to acting, I guess, in that you have to become a character and be that character for X amount of time. So I love that aspect of it. But anyway, so if you do that, the sci-fi gives you that sort of crazy angle, gives you that preposterous idea, and it gives you like permission almost to, you know, give it to someone, and they'll kind of more or less buy it because you're giving them someone accessible and relatable. It's just a crazy situation, but I can identify with this person, so I'm gonna go along with it. I'll forgive whatever nonsense you're saying about whatever the crazy things you're saying. So, and also one of my big influences is Philip K. Dick. Love his stuff and love the same thing. Like, a very accessible people. His protagonists were average Joes, the average Joe, who was not doing too good in life, I guess. And then things are about to get even weirder now. So I drew from that. And one thing I love about Philip K. Dick is also, he always left, you know, he tied up all the loose ends, more or less, loose ends, well, quotation, but he always left one little thing, one tiny little thing that didn't quite tie up. He left it unresolved. That always didn't bother you too much. You could walk away satisfied from the story. But to quote Morpheus, it left a splinter in your mind. It left a little, like, just a tiny little bit of unease in your mind. And I love that. Again, I love that little thing where, like, you're just now you're puzzling about that. You're talking about it. You sit down to talk about, when you join a group, like a book discussion group, to talk about the movie. What did that mean? And it keeps people talking and keeps people talking. And for a while, movies did that also, like on current media, like movies did that as well. Currently, a lot of movies are not doing that because, you know, we're in this weird phase of culture where superhero movies are like everything. Hopefully we'll go back to a time when movies do that, where movies are challenge you a little bit. They leave that little thing that keeps you talking about the movie. Like, actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Inception, remember the end of Inception? Did you ever see Inception?
I did. It's been a long time, though, so feel free to spoil all you want, though.
Well, it's the top, you know, like the spinning top that supposedly will keep spinning if you're not in the real world. And in the movie, at the end of Inception, like, the top spins, and it kind of slows down a little bit. But before we can say if it stops or keeps going or not, he cuts to black. He ends the movie. So that's actually kind of clever. That's a thing that will keep people talking about the movie afterwards. Like, is he really dreaming? Is Cobb really in the real world? Or is he dreaming that he's with his kids? Movies used to do that. A lot of movies, in the 70s particularly, the 70s was a great decade for movies that they had that thing going where they just kind of ended. But they wouldn't tell you everything. They left something for you to speculate on, and that was a big aspect of movie watching in that decade. You, after the movie, you go get coffee and pie and talk about the movie.
Yeah.
Movies now really don't do that. Movies, like I said, Blumhouse, Marvel, DC, they're kind of giving you everything right there, and okay, goodbye now, we're done. So that's consequently why I'm not watching a lot of current movies. But I have faith that things will change eventually. We're going into a new decade, culture is shifting again, so we'll see. Hopefully, new exciting things are coming.
Yeah, that is, you know, it is a struggle, right? As we get older and time passes, things change, right? When we're like, this was really cool, they did this, and then things are different for a while. I think that's a cool thing, though, with, you know, just the evolution of our culture and the evolution of different arts, right? Is that if you're ever tired of something or don't like something, you just have to wait long enough, and if you can wait, make it long enough, eventually it's going to change into something that you hopefully enjoy, whether it's new to you or whether it's familiar. You just have to hold out long enough. I wish a lot more people understood that. It's like, if you don't like something, that's fine. Just hang in there, revisit the stuff you do like for a long time, then come back and try again later.
I was gonna say, yeah, revisit the stuff that you like. You know, the originals are still gonna be there. Like even with the new Predator movie, the original is still there for you. The second one is still there, which are my two personal favorites, the first and the second one. I don't really care for what they've done afterwards. But, you know, like you said, like, you enjoy that or try something new, find something new, because there is good stuff being made. It's just because the superhero movies are the ones that are keeping the studios in the green. That's where the emphasis is going. That's changing. You know, the movies are not making as much money as they made through what they call the first three phases of Marvel. You know, like, I guess until Endgame, they're not doing as successfully as everything before that and leading up to that movie. So that's an indication that things are going to change. But in the meantime, look for little things here and there, like like I said, go on social media, go on Twitter, and you know, see what people are talking about. Like, post about what you like, and eventually the people that are into that, they say, "Oh, you like that? You should check this out."
Yep.
To give you an example, right now, the most fun thing I watched recently was something from over a decade ago. There's a couple of podcasters that I follow, and they posted about something called Dark Place, Frenzy's Dark Place. So I asked them, what is this? And they said it was something made in 2004 or 2005.
Oh.
And it's a spoof on 80s, like a fantasy series. And it's hilarious. It stars Matt Berry. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a British comedian. He's one of the original people on the IT crowd on The Office.
Yeah.
But when it was in the UK, and then it got remade in America.
Yeah.
So he's one of the people that star in that. Yeah, so I checked it out. I'm like, this is really fun, you know? Like, it's really fun, but like, it happens to a lot of good things. It missed its audience. It missed the audience on the first run. But gratefully for us, you know, someone posted it on YouTube, and I was able to watch it this past weekend. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. You know, this is a really fun thing that, here you go now. It's there for anybody who wants to watch it. So I went and posted about it. If you like Danger 5, you'll like this. You know, Danger 5 is another show. It's an Australian show that also spoofs, like, war movies of the 40s. Really clever, really deliberately low budget looking. But it's a show that they had 2 seasons. It didn't get picked up for the third. But on Tubi, it got a second life. And Tubi is there, you know, it'll be there for like a long time. And eventually, you know, people will migrate to that. And you can watch stuff like that until, like you said, like, you know, eventually culture starts shifting. And eventually we get something that's a little more daring, a little more edgy, a little more, or at least we get more of everything. You know, we have more of everything. Right now we have this one thing, the superhero comics, the reboot, remake, retread, and that's about it, really. But before we had more, we had like everything, you know, we had like a mix of everything. There was room for everything.
Yeah, at one point we had everything, now we're back to superheroes, and we're gonna, you know, eventually probably go back to everything. And I was just gonna say, I agree with that. I think having more options rather than just one option is always better, even if it's not in my favor. And I think that's the nice thing with comics. Comics lately have felt like there is more room for indie comics, even if it's still very tough. Like, it's comics in general are hard industry. Even if you're writing the superheroes that are the staple, it's tough. But it seems like there's been more room for indie comics like yours. So I'm really happy to see that, and I just hope that we can keep it continuing. I don't want to see that drop, because I want comics to be accessible to everyone and to have a mix of everything. I don't want them to be only superheroes, even though I still enjoy superheroes. Your book right now, The Plot, it is on Gumroad. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, The Plot. It is on Gumroad right now to buy online, yes?
It's on Gumroad right now. Yes, it's on Gumroad. I'm going to actually print out a limited set of copies, like, I don't know, 50 or so. And I'm going to hit a few, like, small Comic-Cons now, like in I'm thinking end of January, February. I'm looking into getting prices now for how much it will cost to print a limited number of in a paperback form. Yeah, for now I have it on Gumroad as a digital. Yeah, but I want to explore that. It'd be cool to just see it as a, as a paperback, as an actual book, and just to see it, try it on people also, see what people think of it. Yeah. But for the moment, yes, if anybody's interested, at Gumroad, I think it's a gumroad.com/Robopulp.
Yeah, I'll make sure that link is in the description, so any of you watching this at home, you can just click below if you're super lazy like me. You can click like 3-4 times maybe and purchase it and read it. I mean, you can't go wrong. 4 clicks, like.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a lot of fun. I was gonna say, like, Gumroad should make it easier for people not to have to click so many times.
Oh,
you might change your mind and that halfway through the clicking, like.
It should be like
say, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for coming on, and thanks for hanging with me. We are recording this with a storm coming to the northeast, so the storm is conspiring against us.
Recording,
Yeah, speaking of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, reptilians are throwing storms at us. Yeah.
These damn reptilians, y'all gotta stop. Okay, we already have the birds. We don't need the reptilians.
Seriously, all the weather problems that we have and politicians and all that, like, you're gonna throw storms also?
I know. It's just an absolute mess. Well, tell people where they can find you. So the link for Gumroad will be in the bio, the profile, whatever, the information of the video here. Tell us where we can find you on Twitter and all that good stuff.
Super. Well, thank you very much for having me over. It was a really fun chat, and hopefully in the near future, when I get going on something new, I'll stop by again and we can talk about it and share what we've been watching also. And reading, I guess. I'm gonna look up that comic book. Thank you for recommending that. That sounds right up my alley. The Department of Truth. That sounds really cool. I'm totally intrigued by that.
Absolutely.
Like
I'd love to hear your thoughts on
what I did. It's like they stacked it. They stacked all those theories.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, but it's a great read. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Larnett, and you're absolutely welcome back to the Nerdy Neighborhood anytime. Let us know. We're here. Always open good things. Where can we find you on Twitter? Is it at RoboPulp, I think?
Yes, that's on my Twitter. Yeah, RoboPulp, at RoboPulp. That's where I am the most. I have an Instagram, but I really barely go there. So RoboPulp is like, I'm on Twitter a lot. I go there quite a bit. So far, it works the same as before Elon took over. So.
Right. So far it's just like hanging in there till everything explodes. So, well, thank you again so much for coming on. Thanks for braving this storm trying to ruin our technology tonight. Those of you guys watching at home, be sure to go ahead and order the plot. Don't think about it as 4 clicks. Think about it as 1 click, as Mel said. I think that's revolutionary. 1 click. But check it out. Let us know what you think. I know we've got lots of people that are into horrors and thrillers and spy thrillers and all that stuff. You guys will really dig this. It's super great. Gumroad links below. And otherwise, we'll see you guys next time in the Nerdy Neighborhood.